Lorraine Garvey of District 32, and I'm here with Craig Hollet of Solomon Hollet Lawyers. How are you, Craig?
I'm really well, thanks, Lorraine.
You're looking all professional there with your headset on. Noise reduction?
Noise reduction makes things a bit easier for me.
Beautiful. So, Craig, I'll just frame this interview. We're going to talk about the workshop that you're going to do for the Pathway to Growth program, and we're going to talk about contract law for dummies, which of course is massively exciting for all of us who know nothing about contract law. But before we get to that, Craig, tell us a little about your firm. What do you do? How do you help people? Why is it important?
Okay, Solomon Hollet Lawyers, we've been going about 7.5 years. We help people in a lot of different areas. Contract law is one of those areas. We also deal with the back end of contract disputes, and then we do a little bit of property law, and we do a lot of law in relation to wills and estates, so planning and litigation as well. So we sort of have a fairly wide grip on different areas of law, but contract law is one of those areas that is, in my view, a very, very important area of the law.
It is, and we don't realise it as small business owners. We don't realise what what constitutes a contract, what doesn't constitute a contract, what should be in a contract. This is me speaking from experience, of course.
Yep. I think you're taking the words off my cheat sheet, actually.
Oh, really? Well, that can only be a good thing, right?
It is. It means you've read it.
Oh, no, I was speaking from my own experience. I wasn't pinching my words there, Craig. But anyway, so that is what we're going to learn. So you find then that's the mistakes that I've made, business owners make all the time. Is that your experience?
They do. And the worst thing is a lot of them come to me after they've made the mistake. And the first thing I say is, if you had to come to me before, I could probably have helped you avoid making this mistake, or I could have softened the impact of making this mistake by making sure that you had the right documents in place to give you some protection. A lot of people just do things on a handshake, and that was great 40 years ago. Doesn't work so well anymore, unfortunately.
No. And so do you is the majority of what you do then handling the disputes around the contracts or creating the contracts?
Well, funnily enough, originally a lot of it was handling the disputes, but the longer I practice, the more that I've sort of decided to focus on trying to help people to avoid making those disputes in the first place. We all know that, prevention is better than cure. It certainly doesn't help with my fee budget, but I'd rather help a business keep the money in the business to begin with than have the company or the business come to me and spend a small fortune because they've gotten themselves into a pickle because they thought they knew what they were doing and they had no idea what they were doing. It's a bit like doing your own accounting. Why would you?
Well, that's the thing, as business owners, we don't know what we don't know, and we can't be the expert in law, accounting, marketing, sales. We can't wear all the hats. We try.
we do try, but we generally don't succeed.
No, that's right. And I do think contract law is just, it's essential that business owners know the basics, at least, when we're entering it in them. Because as you say, by picking up the phone could save us a lot of heartache in the future.
And that's exactly right. I helped a D32 member just this week who rang me and said, listen, want to look at buying a business. Can you have a look at this document? They sent it to me and I said, it's kind of missing all this information. And they went, what else do you need? And I rattled off a list of stuff and they went,
yeah,
okay, yep, understand that those things would be important as well. We just hadn't thought to put them in this document.
Yeah, again, because we don't know what we don't know. It's not
we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. So, Craig, you are going to share some of your expertise at an upcoming workshop. It's called the Pathway to Growth program. It's a really unique program for business owners and that they can choose their own pathway. There are 12 workshops on the day and participants can choose 6 of those 12. So we can, go and hear what we need for where we're at our business now. You are presenting for us on the day the contract law for dummies. Tell us what outcomes can we expect from that workshop, and why is it absolutely essential that business owners get access to this information?
Listen, I think, you know, they go hand in hand, but, you know, one of the outcomes will be to just assist people to read a legal contract, so that, you know, some of this language that can be used in legal contracts can quite often be confusing. It can be misunderstood. It can be misinterpreted. So the first thing that people will be equipped with is an understanding of how you should read a legal contract. The second thing that I'd like to work on that day is some of the common inclusions in contracts that are quite often overlooked. And I just gave you an example of someone just this week where they didn't know what they didn't know, and that's not their fault, but they made the right call by calling me and saying, what else should be in this document? So that'll be the second outcome. And the third one will be just to give some examples about what happens if things go pear-shaped, you know, the contract's breached or it's terminated, or there is a dispute. And one of the things we're going to look at is a case which is known as the case of the $1 million comma. About a comma being put in the wrong spot in a document.
Wow.
And what the outcome was, it made $1 million difference in option A, option B.
So the comma wasn't actually in the word right in the million, was it?
No,
you can't tell me.
You'll have to come to the workshop. You'll have to come to the workshop to find out. So that's really just a teaser from me. But Beautiful. It's a classic example of something not being done properly. And the last thing you need in business is to have to deal with a contract that isn't actually what you agreed, or it doesn't achieve what you wanted to agree, and then having to spend all that time, money, emotional effort, dealing with that dispute instead of actually focusing on growing your business. And we all know which part we'd rather be. We'd rather be in this side, not this side. I mean, I'd rather be on this side, but, you know, the average business owner would rather not spend money on legal costs. Totally get that. And so this workshop will try to equip people to just better equip them. And I kind of picked up the contract law for dummies because there were all those books a number of years ago, computers for dummies and so forth. And I thought, you know, that's just a nice little catch line, that it's not saying people don't know anything about contract law. There's a lot of people that are very knowledgeable about contract law, but it's just kind of, let's take it to one step further to try to make sure we protect you in your business and the contracts you enter into, whether they're verbal contracts, written contracts, a combination of both, you know, all those kinds of intricacies that have arisen with things like COVID, things like the internet and email. All of those have changed the landscape. Once upon a time, you sent a document from A to B. Someone got that document, they read, penned it, sent it back. And when you finally agreed, some poor person had to copy type the whole thing again, hence, you know, the $1 million comma type scenario. And, you know, now everything goes backwards and forwards. You can get confused if you're not careful with which version of a document you're looking at online. You click on the wrong version, you could end up with something you didn't actually agree to. But you did agree to it because you signed it. So let's try to take out a little bit of the black magic side of it to an extent, simplify it a little bit, and just better equip people to actually look at these documents and then get into contracts.
Craig Hollet, you should be in marketing. There's a few little like hooks in there. You're getting us in. You want us to come.
Well, I there's nothing worse than speaking to an empty room. So I would love to speak to a packed room of people that have come along that say, I know I don't know it all. I'd like to understand more about what's going on here.
Craig Hollet, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for giving back to the business community here in Perth. And I look forward to seeing you on the day.
Awesome. I look forward to being there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Bye.
Bye.